The afternoon sun hung low over the quiet suburban street, casting long shadows between rows of neatly trimmed lawns and parked cars. Officer Mike Reynolds had been patrolling the neighborhood when he spotted a black sedan parked slightly askew by the curb. The driver, a black man in a navy blue suit, stood beside it, scrolling through his phone. Something about the situation felt off to Reynolds. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe it was years of subconscious biases he had yet to acknowledge. Flicking on his squad car's lights, Reynolds pulled over and stepped out. The man barely looked up as he approached. "Sir," Reynolds said, placing his hand on his belt. "May I ask what you're doing here?" The man finally looked up, his expression unreadable. "Excuse me, this is a quiet neighborhood," Reynolds continued. "We've had reports of suspicious activity, and I noticed your vehicle parked improperly. Can I see some ID?" The man sighed, tucking his phone into his pocket. Suspicious activity. His gaze swept the street. Families enjoying their yards, children riding bikes, a couple watering their lawn. Nothing out of the ordinary. "Yes," Reynolds pressed. "You match the description of someone we've been looking for." The man raised an eyebrow. "And what description is that?" "Sir, I need to see some identification." The tension between them thickened. A few onlookers noticed the interaction. Their curiosity piqued. The man exhaled slowly, then reached inside his jacket pocket. Reynolds' hand instinctively hovered over his holster. The man paused, catching the officer's movement. "Relax," he said. "I'm just getting my ID." Slowly, he pulled out a leather badge wallet and flipped it open, revealing a silver badge and an identification card. Reynolds squinted, and his stomach twisted when he read the name, Detective Jonathan Carter, Internal Affairs Division. The realization hit like a freight train. Carter's gaze locked onto him, cold and unwavering. "You look stupid now, don't you?" Carter said, voice low but firm. Reynolds swallowed hard. His mind raced for an explanation, for a way to justify his actions, but there was none. "This is the third time I've been stopped in this neighborhood in the last month," Carter continued, stepping closer. Each time, the officer had a vague excuse: suspicious activity, a matching description, a broken taillight that didn't exist. He tilted his head. "Funny how that keeps happening." Sweat prickled at Reynolds' brow. "I was just—" "You were profiling," Carter interrupted. "You assumed I didn't belong here, that I wasn't supposed to be standing by this car in this neighborhood, dressed like this." The silence stretched. More people had gathered at a distance, whispering among themselves. Reynolds' pulse pounded in his ears. Carter exhaled sharply. "I'm Internal Affairs, Officer Reynolds. And do you know what that means?" Reynolds nodded stiffly. "It means I investigate officers like you." Reynolds felt the weight of his career pressing down on him. "You made a mistake," Carter continued, his voice unwavering. "One that could have ended much worse if I were someone else. Do you understand that?" Reynolds lowered his gaze. "Yes, sir." "Good." Carter pulled out his phone and snapped a picture of Reynolds' badge number. "Expect a review soon." He turned and walked back to his car. Reynolds stood frozen as the detective drove away, leaving behind a street full of watching eyes and an unbearable sense of regret. That night, Reynolds lay awake, replaying the moment over and over. For the first time in his career, he questioned himself, not just his actions, but the biases he had never thought to confront. Because in the end, it wasn't just about one traffic stop. It was about the system he was part of, and now he had to decide what he was.